Please give a big Mad Monster Arizona 2023 welcome to Robert Englund! Thank you for joining us this weekend and for taking part in this Q&A. I have a few questions I'll ask, and we'll get right to the audience as well, too.
You have, what do you want to ask?
Well, we're gonna jump right in with, I know a lot of people have heard how you got into the entertainment industry, but there's always that one or two people in the audience who aren't familiar with what first interested you in becoming an actor and how you first got in. So we'll begin with there. What first inspired you to act?
I was sent off one summer with an older teenage girl who was the belle of the ball in the San Fernando Valley, and she dated older boys and was making her mother crazy. And she wanted to be an actress. She was beautiful, long legs, big eyes, wonderful. I think she eventually became a talk show host in Puerto Rico. So to keep her from hanging out with the older boys too much, her mother and my mother kind of hooked me to her. I was 12 and a half years old, and I went along to this semi-professional children's workshop, and it was the people from teenagers, and it was mostly kids from 13 to 18. And I thought I would just be an usher. I was kind of looking forward to having one of the cool new flashlights that were out then. And I figured I'd be sweeping the stage, and I'm going to stand, sweeping the stage, mopping the stage. And I went up for the auditions. I got Pinocchio. I got Hansel and Gretel, Peter Pan, Aladdin. And being a 12-and-a-half-year-old boy with raging hormones, surrounded by older teenage girls, I even have one memory of them putting spoolies to curl my hair in the girls' bathroom on the girls' side of the stage. And I was in the girls' bathroom, and they were listening to West Side Story. And they put the spoolies in my hair, and my hair was sprayed black because I was Pinocchio. And the girls were all 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. Teenage girls used to sneak cigarettes back then. And they were putting glitter on their old-fashioned brassieres that people wore back then. Don't think it's too nasty, because any bikini that's at this show is more radical. There's photos of Cassandra that are more radical. But they were putting glitter on their brassieres because they were the harem girls. And I'm sitting there, and a girl is teaching me how to blow smoke rings. West Side Story in the background, echoing off the bathroom walls, and a room full of teenage girls in their bras. What? And give up show business? I wish it was art and poetry, and I wish that I told you I was watching Marlon Brando and James Dean, which I eventually did. But at that moment of time, that was it. I opened Pinocchio, and every night I had to run across the stage in my little Tyrolean shorts, with my suspenders and my little vest, my little Pinocchio hat, my little nose, and there was foam hidden in the vest and the back of my shorts. And I would run across the stage, and the Indians would chase me across the stage, and I would run back, and I'd have an arrow through my hat, and I got a laugh. Well, about 2 weeks into the run, I found some more arrows on the prop table, and I remember I have foam inside my vest, so I stuck an arrow here, stuck an arrow in my butt, ran across the stage, bigger laugh. Aha! Got some more arrows off the prop table, put another one through my hat, put another one in the front of me, and held one between my teeth so that when I ran, I looked at the audience with an arrow here, like Joey Ross in Some Like It Hot with a Rose when he's dancing with Marilyn. Got a huge laugh, and I was addicted. Getting that laugh in the same place every night, it just makes you feel empowered. It's kind of like, and it's kind of like being a rock star. That's why you understand why people go through all the bombing that they do as stand-up comedy, because when it's working, it's got to be such a high, organic high. And so teenage girls and prop arrows, and I'm here.
Very cool. Yeah, I know we talked about this before. One of your very first parts was in a movie called Buster and Billy that you did with producer and eventually he was also a theater owner, Ted Mann. And can you talk a little bit about being cast in Buster and Billy and working on that?
Well, I got typed pretty quickly in Hollywood in the early 70s. I was the sidekick, the pal, the buddy, the best friend for lots of big stars. Henry Fonda, Peter Strauss, Jan Michael Vincent in Buster and Billy, Dennis Christopher. I said Henry Fonda, Jeff Bridges, Arnold Schwarzenegger's second movie. I played his best friend. I'm the guy that used to put body oil on him, you know. Hi, I'm Robert Englund. Oh, hi. The first thing I had to do in that movie, my first day working with Arnold. But I usually played Southerners, and I don't know why. It must have been the way I looked. The producers and the casting directors thought I was a Southerner. And I'd never played a Southerner before in my life, except for one Tennessee Williams play, Summer and Smoke, and that was really a dork nerd role. And I've done a lot of dorks and nerds. And so when people ask me if I feel bad being typecast, you know, as a sort of Vincent Price guy now, I say, well, it's better than being 76 years old and being still cast as a dork and a nerd. You know, I get to kill the dorks and nerds, but more fun. But no, I auditioned against really big stars for that. That's my first movie. Got a starring role in my first audition. Shortly after that, I was up for Kojak. But that was my first starring role and my first audition. And I think I beat out a wonderful actor named Michael Sachs, who did the Kurt Vonnegut movie, Slaughterhouse-Five, which for my generation was a book that was always on the coffee table in your dorm room, you know. And Gary Busey also was up for that role. This is like when Gary was really in the prime of his talent, working with Clint Eastwood and soon to do Buddy Holly. He'd done a great TV movie with the late great Ben Johnson called Bloodsport about concussions in football before anybody was talking about that. And so I beat out some big actors and I got the role. But back in those days, it took a year for a movie to come out because they had to edit it, all the post-production music, etc. So I went from being the star in Allman Brothers, Statesboro, Georgia, and going to all of the Rotary Club free breakfasts with pancakes stacked this high, and be treated like a god. My name on the marquee in front of the hotel, welcome, Robert Englund, spelled wrong. I went from that and hanging out with Jan Michael Vincent, the biggest star in America then. You guys don't remember him, a lot of you are too young, but in the 70s, Jan was huge and Disney star. It starred with Charles Bronson in movies, big hits. Did a great movie called Bite the Bullet with Gene Hackman. A great little drive-in movie called White Line Fever with Kay Lenz, who was married to David Cassidy and had done Misty with Clint Eastwood. But the agent, James Dean's agent, had let all of his clients go in the early 70s. He kept two people, Jan Michael Vincent and Burt Reynolds, and they became the two biggest stars of the 70s. And I starred with Jan Michael, and I shot Burt Reynolds, so I hit first and second base. But you know, it really got me off the blocks, and my what's the word? I guess status really nicely. That your first job is a starring role. So, I mean, and that's not to say I haven't done bad guy number 1, bad guy number 2, and bad guy number 3. And then the bad guy with a name, usually have a name like Spike or something like that. But no, I've paid my dues, but I always had, I was fortunate to have that head start, which gave me a reputation. I think I'd done 12, maybe 15 movies before I did Freddy, you know.
So let's jump forward about a decade, like early 1983, 84, around the time when Beat comes along, and then later Nightmare on Elm Street. Can you talk about being cast as Willie in Beat?
Well, some of you have heard this story, but I was really liked well at Warner Brothers. I was right down to the wire for Dukes of Hazzard to play John Schneider's brother. I must have gone back 6 or 7 times. I'd done some guest star work over there, you know, the original Night Court and other things. And I'd done several movies there. And Ken Johnson had his offices at Warner Brothers, and the casting director sent me over. I think it was Harriet Helberg, whose son is the star of Helberg, come on, the movie about the brainy kids, television series, #1 TV series. What? Sandy Helberg? Come on, you guys. The #1 TV show for 5 years ago. About the smart kids with the high IQs. Yes. That was his mother, and she got me V. And I went over to meet Ken Johnson, and I said, Ken, you know who Ken is, right? Bionic Man, Bionic Woman, $6 Million Man, Bionic Dog, Bionic Cat, you know, all brilliant guy. And Kenny is sitting there, and I said, I don't understand this. I'm an alien who's supposed to have been sent to the Middle East, and I've been programmed to learn Arabic, and now by accident, the aliens have dropped me off with the Los Angeles contingent, and I have problems with English, and that's the running joke. I said, I'm not sure how, I don't have a clue. And Ken Johnson looked at me and he said 2 words, Gene Wilder. You've got great direction, right? I mean, so I channeled Gene Wilder and that kind of hesitant way that Gene Wilder works, and that stood me in good stead with the role, and I became very popular in that role. And it's the first time audiences learned my name. This is like 1981, and audiences finally, I mean, people would buy me a beer at a bar. Hey, I saw you last night on Police Story. Yeah, you robbed the bank with a guy from Elm Street Blues. Have a beer. But no one ever knew my name. A lot of people, you get that thing when you're a young actor, people start to recognize you. Did I go to high school with you? It's like, you get that look. You know, you're either going to be mugged or they're going to ask you if you're in the yearbook. And so people put Robert Englund to my face and V, 1981, international, because they raised the bar for special effects on television. We had John Dykstra come from Star Wars. So it was an international hit. It was the #1 television show in London, Paris, Germany, Tokyo. So I became international overnight. Now this is something they don't teach you in school or acting school or drama class. A lot of agents don't even know this. You know, so you could have dropped me off in Europe and I would have been mobbed and no one would know who Jay Leno is. See, because he's an American star doing American comedy for an American audience. But science fiction, fantasy films, horror films, action films, they speak the international language of movies. And so that opened the door for me. And same thing happened with Nightmare on Elm Street. And I'm forever grateful, because let me tell you, when things get slow in LA, there's nothing like going to Rome and making a little nasty movie and chasing some Italian teenage actress around a castle. Sign me up.